Welcome to the Catholic Midlife podcast, where we address the challenges and the opportunities of midlife from a uniquely Catholic perspective. This is the time, my friends, for a deeper renewal of your Christian vocation. Come and enter into the freedom of Christ that allows you to be the person you were created to be, because there's an amazing, awesome, exciting next season of life waiting for you.
Hello and welcome to the Catholic Midlife Podcast. I'm Curtis. It's great to be here with you. As you listen to our Relating to Your Young Adults season, you might be wondering, well, if I'm not giving advice, if I'm not offering comments, what the heck am I supposed to do? Because my young adult, they're ping-ponging back and forth between independence and dependence, between full and partial adulthood. I have all these different roles. I'm a landlord or a roommate. I'm the education funder, the auto insurer, the health insurer, repairman, maybe even a child care provider. I have all these roles, and I can't just give them whatever they want. I can't be a doormat. What to do? This is a great episode. We're going to talk about something that is usually possible for you to do. And that is to, well, wait and see. We'll tell you. Hello and welcome to the Catholic Midlife Podcast. It's great to be here with you. We want to thank our listener who sent us a quick note. She said she had been listening to our Relating to Your Young Adults season, and she said, I talked to my son about how I desire him to feel honored and respected as a young man and to build an adult relationship going forward. As we discussed things, his face lit up and I could see a sense of peace and freedom he was experiencing from our interaction. And what a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us. We really love this topic of relating to your young adult. We're going to continue the season, and that's why I'm here with my co-host, Karen.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
Karen, great to see you this morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm a little peppier than usual, actually.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. On this topic, I was just thinking how back in the old days when I used to take Ubers places with people, I was in the back of the Uber and I was listening to the driver having this long sort of not heated, but very active conversation. And he hung up and he said, I'm really sorry. I was talking to my adult son. He said, both my sons, they are over 30. I am parenting them all the time. The parenting, it never ends. My God.
It doesn't.
And he was laughing.
He was right.
He was laughing and I was laughing. And I wish he had such a great accent. I wish I could do it, but I was charmed. Here's a really common scenario that we see with young adults.
We see a lot of this, actually.
Yeah. So your young adult is looking for a job.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun, dun. It's a summer job. It's a temporary job until they're ready for the next thing. And so they are in your house. They're eating your food. They're looking at you. When are you going to cook me dinner? They may or may not be mowing your lawn. They are laying on the couch.
Ooh, the couch.
And they're laying on the couch, I mean, a lot. And every time you look at them on the couch, you think, why aren't you looking for a job? And the tension escalates very rapidly. So this is an example of something that could turn into a big conflict.
Exactly. And I think that's a great example, Curtis, because, it's not simple. There's a lot of factors involved. We're not going to tell you what to do when your young adult is looking for a job. And I think we can tell you there are some really helpful approaches to the relationship. There's helpful orientations that will serve and support you both in situations like this and really in any situation with your young adult. And the one I want to really talk about today is developing what we call a collaborative mindset.
Yeah. So what is that?
Well, okay. So the first thing is It means you're starting to think in terms of interests and not just positions. And I know I need to define those terms. So here's a position, okay? College student. I want you to call me every week on Sunday afternoon. That's my position.
Call your mom.
Call your mom. Tape it to your forehead. Put it on your mirror in the college dorm. That's a position, okay? An interest is really, what's my larger interest? My interest is I want a consistent interaction with my student for communication and connection. I want communication and connection on a consistent basis. That's my interest, okay? So what's a position? Okay, let's say you're in this example Curtis mentioned of your kid's looking for a job. A position is I want you to get up every day from 8 to noon and sit at your computer and apply for jobs. I want you to treat looking for a job like a job.
Yeah, of course. That's what you're supposed to do. Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. That's a position. But if you ask yourself, really, what are my bigger interests here? You can start to unlock a lot of things. There's a lot of interests you might have. Like, I want this young adult to feel happy and successful in their work. I want them to achieve financial independence. I want them to gain some learning and experience and have some experiences in the world to figure out where they want to go.
Yeah, and you want that hopefully they'll align their strengths and their values and their gifts with their life and career. That's a big long-term goal.
Exactly.
And of course, there's the short-term interest of, hey, we want you to get a good job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a job.
Any job. I want you to get any job. Depending. So we're shifting really our mindset from taking positions to identifying interests.
Yeah. So notice that the position is the thing. That's what I want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
So Karen's saying, look, kid, I want you to get up, take a shower, sit down, and work for 4 hours looking for a job. That's a position. It's very specific. It's what you're supposed to do. But the interest pans out. It looks more broadly and says, well, what is it? What's the purpose of this? What are we trying to accomplish here? What are the big things that I need to keep in mind?
Right, right. And the reason you want to do this is that collaboration is all about putting everyone's interests on the table to find really great solutions and agreement around certain actions or quote unquote positions.
Yeah. And I want to make the point that we're giving you this example of looking for work, but what we're talking about is a general mindset for working with your young adults to transition the relationship to something that's going to sustain both of you over a lifetime.
Yes. This is an orientation to the relationship, and it's going to help you and support you really in every situation that you encounter, and not just this example. And here's the thing, we take positions all the time, and not just with our kids, right? We're always taking positions. Sometimes we have conflict just because everybody's taking a position versus backing up and identifying what are the interests here and what are some great solutions for everybody.
Yeah, I took a position recently.
You did?
It was, I'm not shopping for a new microwave. Karen is shopping for the new microwave because doesn't matter what I do, she's going to have the veto power over it. And so I'm not going to go trotting off to the store or the internet 20 times to educate her on her options for a new microwave.
Okay, I actually have to make a little correction, Curtis. You didn't recently take this position. You took it a year ago, and we still don't have a microwave. And my position was, well, I'm really not ready to buy a microwave until we have, some decisions around all of our appliances, because they're all old and they're all going to die. And we want to have some cohesion around what we're doing with our appliances. Now, this wasn't really a conflict, though. We weren't having a conflict. but we were focused on positions and we never had the conversation to clarify what are our bigger interests. And that really would have helped us to make a decision about the microwave.
Yeah, so the kids have been complaining for over a year.
It's been a big issue in our house, and it's going to be the thing they look back and say, oh, you remember that time when nobody would buy a microwave and we had to heat up everything on the stove all the time and we couldn't microwave anything?
Yeah, so mom finally went out and bought a cheap microwave that's going to go off to somebody's dorm here pretty soon.
Exactly. So one effect of just jumping to positions is conflict. But one effect sometimes is just not making decisions about things that, you could make a decision about. I feel like one thing I want to suggest, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about all the times you take positions, a really great question you can ask yourself if you want to get to your interests is, okay, I'm taking this position and what's my purpose? For what purpose am I taking this position? And if you ask that question enough times, I think you'll get to some of your larger interests.
Yeah, so for the kid that seems to be laying around on the couch,
right?
And we have a position of get up and go to work. That's our position, but we have all these bigger interests, including the relationship, the learning goals, having an experience of working for something and seeing it pay off, along with a desire for their financial independence, getting them off the payroll. We have a lot of interests, and they have a lot of shared interests.
Yes, they have their own interests, yes.
And some of their interests will be the same.
Yep.
And some of them will be a little different. So they have some relational interests as well. They don't want to feel judged. They don't want to feel humiliated as they go through a process of a very difficult process often of being rejected and not knowing what to do.
So here's one thing about a collaborative mindset. Everybody's interests count. Everybody's interests get on the table. Because in a collaborative mindset, your focus is trying to get a win-win. And that's a win for everyone, for you, for your young adult. Everybody gets to decide what's a win for them and what their interest is. So one trap, I think, is to discount interests that your young adult might have that maybe you don't think is important or you don't particularly value, but is valuable to them.
Yeah, so the point about autonomy, really, it's pretty big. When we're trying to help our young adult, we're trying to give them some advice. We have a lot of experience looking for work. We're trying to give them the benefit of that. We're trying to keep up with them just to help them with a little accountability. And we feel like we're encouraging them, but it doesn't feel encouraging when you're getting all these suggestions.
Right.
Or all this advice disguised as suggestions or lots of observations and lots of questions. So something to negotiate in this situation might be what does autonomy look like? How much visibility into that process is appropriate for the landlords?
Right. And what can everyone agree on as behaviors that the young adult will do and behaviors that the parents will do to serve all of those common interests?
Yeah, and in a collaboration, the kind of agreement we're talking about is an agreement where they are finding something they want to do. Mm-hmm. They're finding an approach they want. This isn't like when they were at a much younger age and you force them to agree to do whatever it is you're demanding they do.
Right. Sign this agreement on the paper.
Right. So the collaborative approach is working with the other person to figure out, well, what is it they want, right, Karen?
Right. And a collaborative mindset, your goal really is to find out what everybody wants, as you said, and to find and suggest some solutions that might get that for everyone. And sometimes I think we confuse collaboration with compromise. Well, let's just compromise. And a compromise, actually, nobody fully wins. It's sort of like I lose a little bit, you lose a little bit. Nobody gets a full win, but nobody gets a full lose.
Sure. So, okay, fine, but I'm not going to get up at 8. I'll go from 10 to 12:30.
Right.
And how much buy-in do you think that gets?
Exactly.
Close to zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is actually a very hard transition for a lot of us to make, especially the white-collar workers out there, especially you men. We're used to going in and talking to our boss, our supervisor, whoever it is, and we're sitting there and we're having a conversation where they expect us to solve some kind of problem. And so we're telling them our solution and the options they have and what could happen and how we think it should be fixed. And they're asking us questions till they're satisfied that we have a handle on the situation. Then they tell us, go and do. And that can be very collegial. It can be a great process, but it's not collaborative.
No, it's not.
The understanding there is, hey, I'm going to lose my job if I don't make you happy. And so I need to have a great attitude and make it all work. But that is not a collaboration, and that's not a way to get to a win-win with a party that you respect their autonomy. You respect them having some independence. You respect them having some of their own goals.
Right. Can I ask you a question, Curtis?
Yes, sure.
Sure. Okay. So how do you think expectations fit into all of this?
Well, ideally, when there's a situation, then we're going to start thinking about our interests. And we're going to keep asking ourselves, okay, what's the purpose of doing that? What's the purpose of approaching it that way? And as we get to our interests, then we should start thinking about our expectations. So as somebody that was in the workforce for 40 years or whatever, I'm still in the workforce, I guess. You're my boss now, honey.
I am.
Indeed. And you've been that way in the marriage for how many years now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get to work,
The
man.
boss lady. With all that professional approach, it's really hard to see past the idea that it's hard for me to understand why you wouldn't take a systematic, structured, disciplined approach with checklists and searching resources to help you. That's my very solid expectation, which frankly is not unreasonable.
No.
But it's my expectation.
Yeah. So you have these kind of old expectations or expectations from your own experience, your own assumptions, your own, biases or whatever. And what do you do with them?
Well, it's really good to share expectations. And this is actually a chance to show a little bit of vulnerability with the person, with your young adult. You can say, well, this is my background and this is why I have this approach. And it's difficult for me to think of other ways to get at this. And that's my expectations. What are some of the expectations that you have?
Right. And at some point, it seems to me, I'm interested what you think about this. At some point, it seems to me everybody has to set aside their old expectations and create some new expectations together, collaboratively. Do you think that's part of the collaborative mindset?
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So if I'm collaborating, we can agree together on some common expectations and set them anew for ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is really interesting because I think as you investigate your kids' interests, the expectations will really come to the fore. And we might even learn a lot about our own expectations in the process that we didn't realize.
Yeah, because our expectations can come out of our family history, our own experience. They could come out of our fear and anxiety and our own stressors. I mean, it's alarming to see your kid looking for work and not making progress, and you start to catastrophize and think, well, they're never going to leave. I'm going to have to drag them out with the police or something, but I would never do that. And all these thoughts go through your mind.
Right. That's right. That's right. So let me just sum up here. When you're engaging with your young adult, you want to start developing a collaborative mindset and approach. So focus on your interests, not your positions. Identify your own expectations. Try to create new expectations that are common and agreed upon. Look for the win-win. What's a way that I can get my interests satisfied and the other person, can get their interests satisfied too?
Yeah, we collaborate with other adults all the time.
Right.
We approach them in an upfront, non-manipulative way. We let them know what's on our mind and why we're thinking in a certain way, and we're inviting them to problem solve with us. So our young adults are fitting into that category now, and we want to, when possible, collaborate. We want that to be our first go-to mode.
Exactly.
Our default mode is to collaborate.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode. Curtis and I are available for presentations, workshops on this issue. If you'd like to reach out to us or connect us with someone you know who may be interested, please email thecatholicmidlife@gmail.com, and we'll see you next week.
That concludes our episode. It's so helpful when you can work with your emerging young adults. It's not about their character. It's not about their performance. It's about collaboration. We still have some slots left for the self-compassion course for women. Go to thecatholicmidlife.com. There's information. There's ways to sign up. There's ways to reach out and ask questions. So go to thecatholicmidlife.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here with us. The Catholic Midlife Podcast is for anyone that wants to receive the abundance of life that God has for each one of us. Take a moment right now to tell a friend about us.